And welcome to the Monday, November 8th, 2020 Maplewood City Council meeting. Tonight's meeting is a hybrid meeting, and I just wanted to reflect a little bit about where things are and what is going on tonight. In March, as you all know, our world changed overnight in just a matter of days and weeks. The COVID-19 pandemic engulfed the globe, bringing dramatic changes to virtually every one of our lives, every area of our lives. The virus has attacked human bodies regardless of age, gender, race, income, or education, while statistically the elderly and those with underlying medical conditions seemed most susceptible. The virus has defied categories and seemingly attacked arbitrarily. Because it was a new virus, science reached its limitations quite quickly, and it has been challenging to know the best course of action to prevent the spread of the disease. The city has done an admirable job of responding to the pandemic and adapting so that we can continue to conduct the business of the city. As you are no doubt aware, our DMV has been open by appointment. Voting this past several weeks took place here at City Hall, and there were over 3,800 absentee voters who came in and voted at City Hall. 8,400 people came in person on Election Day to our various polls around the city, and over 10,000 people voted by mail, sending ballots to Ramsey County. If any of you have been out in the community, you've seen police, fire, and our public works staff wearing masks while working out there. Many of our city staff split their work from home and work at City Hall. We have preparedness plans in place. We socially distance, and we limit the numbers in City Hall. Tonight, we are further adapting, and we have shifted to hybrid meetings, meaning that people can select to attend the meeting either electronically or electronically through video or phones, or they can elect to attend the meeting in person. Each person is able to select how they wish to attend. I said earlier on in the pandemic that we were all in the same storm, but we were on different ships. And that is why I believe it's crucial that we all can select how we wish to participate. And that includes staff, council, our commissioners, our residents, our business folks. Several months ago, council asked the staff to research how other cities were conducting business during this time. And in September, we got a report concerning cities in the 7-county metro area. In that location, in those 7 counties, 3 counties and 19 cities were conducting business virtually. Maplewood was one of those. In that same geographical area, 3 counties and 30 cities continued to conduct all of their business in person, socially distancing and requiring masks. And in that same area, 1 county and 5 cities had moved to hybrid meetings, meaning that people could attend either electronically or they could attend in person. Now, all of the entities in the 7-county metro area have been successfully conducting the public's business, regardless of the format, if it's virtual, in person, or a hybrid meeting. Public hearings, community input, compliance with relevant state statutes, and effective meetings happen in all formats. So what has changed now that Maplewood is trying hybrid meetings? Well, there have been changes during this pandemic to the governor's executive orders on indoor meetings and face coverings. Seating changes on the dais in the room have been changed. There have been physical changes here at City Hall to the airflow and our HVAC system. Technology upgrades have been implemented in the council chambers. We have a preparedness plan. The room has been sanitized, and we are wearing face masks as we come and go. I firmly believe that we can safely offer hybrid meetings to conduct city business at this time. Now, my decision was based on careful thought, consultation with staff, consultation with the council, and a survey of all of our commissioners. The hybrid option, I will tell you, is on a trial basis, and as everything concerning the world pandemic is subject to change, this may also be subject to change. Paramount to all of us is the personal safety of staff, our commissioners, our council members, and our residents. And so tonight we are starting with our very first hybrid meeting. So welcome everyone. We'll see if we can kind of work out some of the glitches and stay tuned because this is a flexible situation. So with that, welcome to our hybrid meeting, and let us do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight, council meetings, as with all of our meetings, we're still going to do the round robin so that we can make sure everyone is heard. And the order that we'll be using tonight is Councilmember Knudsen, Councilmember Neblett, Councilmember Juniman, and Councilmember Smith. So with that, City Clerk Sint, would you please conduct the roll call for us?
Councilmember Juniman.
Here.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Here.
Councilmember Neblett.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Mayor Abrams.
Here. Council members, is there a motion concerning our agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Neblett, seconded by Juniman, the motion to approve the agenda. Is there any further discussion or additions? I would like to add something under council presentations concerning our coat drive. Is there anything else? Councilmember Knudsen.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Neblett.
No, thanks.
Councilmember Juniman.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
No, thank you.
Okay, hearing none, then let us vote. Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion concerning the minutes?
I move approval of the minutes for the city council meeting of Monday, October 26, 2020.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Smith. Motion to approve the city council minutes for Monday, October 26, 2020. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's take a vote. Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Council calendar update, City Manager Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The council calendar is looking kind of short. We have 3 more meetings before the end of the year. One is November 12th, which is this Thursday at 4:30. We'll be canvassing the election results. And on December 23rd, we have a meeting, and December 14th, which we will be adopting the 2021 budget and capital improvement plan. And then, Mayor, I would just say, if you have anything that you'd like staff to work on or to do some research on and report back, now would be the time to indicate that to staff. I believe you might have been meeting, but I don't have it written down.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Did you have something that you wanted us to work on last time?
I can't recall right now. I'll have to go back and take a look.
Okay, I couldn't find it in my notes, but I thought maybe you had something.
Okay.
But if you do, just let me know.
Okay. Council members, is there anything else that you would like to add? Councilmember Knutson,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Neblett,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Juniman,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Mayor, the one thing I would like to add, there's been some developments with the ponds. Wondering if we might be able to get an update
yeah.
on that
Okay, very good.
Meeting or,
in the future. Okay, maybe next time.
okay, sure.
There, I can tell you this, that there is a meeting November 19th.
Yes,
Mhm.
and the other update is that, due to COVID and other things, Commissioner Reinhardt was able to secure funding for 2021.
Pardon me?
Commissioner Reinhardt was able to secure funding for 2021 to keep it open for another year is what I heard.
Oh,
I heard that very recently.
You know, how about if our next meeting that we get an update?
That's what I was
Okay,
looking for.
yeah, that
I
would
just
be
want to
good.
verify that and
Okay.
find out exactly what that means.
All right,
Okay,
thank you
sure.
for that. We'll bring that up, add the ponds to our next meeting agenda. Okay,
And if it's a nothing thing, we don't have to spend time on it. I just,
okay. Well, I think it's still important to have an update.
yeah.
Our meeting will be on November 23rd.
So the first meeting would have already happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so we will at least, so for those people listening, November 19th, it's also on the city's website, the information about how to participate in that public engagement on the ponds. I think that that's going to be a very important public engagement, and I would encourage people to get involved and make sure that, their comments are received and that they participate.
And Mayor, point of order, it's not just
Yes.
about the ponds, it's sort of a vision for South Maplewood and the development.
Correct.
that-
The future of the
development
ponds
and-
property, right?
But also the potential development around the workhouse.
right.
And those pieces too.
Good point. Okay, then moving on to council presentations. I was updated by Assistant City Manager Sable tonight that our coat drive in October was very successful. We collected 150 coats, and those coats, those winter coats, will be distributed through our nonprofit partners and our school district partners. And also, I believe the Y is a nonprofit, but so that those coats will be distributed. And given the inclement weather that we are now looking at this week, I'm sure that that will be very welcome to members of our community to get one of those nice warm coats. So with that, we move on to the presentation on the McCarran's Treatment Process Improvement Project. And I believe we have our presenter tonight, according to the report, is Will Menkhaus. Is that correct?
Or Steve.
Is Mr. Menkhaus on the call?
Mayor Abrams, this is Steve Schneider. Mr. Menkhaus is on the agenda, but unfortunately he is with his parents down in Kentucky, introducing them to his new daughter. So I have myself, Pat Shea, who is our Assistant General Manager, and Dave Wagner with us here. I am going to share my screen and we should be able to get the PowerPoint up for you.
Welcome, gentlemen.
There we go. All right. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Again, Will Menkhaus is on the agenda, but he is out of town. So my name is Steve Schneider. I'm General Manager of St. Paul Regional Water Services. With me today is Patrick Shea, who is our Assistant General Manager, and Dave Wagner, our Engineering Division Manager, will be co-presenting tonight. We are here tonight to preview a very exciting project that's been in the planning for many years at St. Paul Regional Water Services and the Board of Water Commissioners. The McCarran's treatment plant upgrade is intended to modernize our treatment process, to improve plant operation, and to add flexibility to our system so that we can continue to provide high quality, safe and reliable drinking water for generations to come. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Patrick Shea to talk about a little bit of the background of the project.
Well, thank you, Steve, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing us to speak tonight. Again, I'm Patrick Shea. I'm Assistant General Manager with St. Paul Regional Water, and it's an honor to get things started. And we'll start by taking a look at the McCarran's water treatment plant. The treatment facility was designed to serve the area, and it serves a population of nearly 500,000 customers in the city of St. Paul and our member communities well over the last century. Like all aging infrastructure, major parts of the plant are well beyond their useful life and are in need of replacement. We currently rely on historical water treatment technology that was designed in the 1940s. Over the years, needed improvements have been made, but the core of the plant hasn't been substantially upgraded or changed in over 70 years. While we've avoided critical failures and our staff ensures that McCarran's continues to operate, we are seeing increased mechanical failures and equipment in need of both planned and emergency replacement. Like anything that's over 100 years old, the plant does need significant updating. We are operating with 1940s technology, but facing 2020 and beyond challenges that are always emerging. This project will modernize our plant and allow us to prepare for future treatment needs. Instead of relying on technology from the 40s, this project will replace aging equipment and bring advanced treatment capabilities such as ozone into our treatment toolbox. Slide, please. So some of our responsibilities, three of our most important responsibilities we have at St. Paul Regional Water Services are to provide high quality water to every customer 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We're responsible to be proactively planning for the future, and we are responsible for the wise investment in assets to ensure the long-term success of the utility and support the prosperity of the region. We also have a responsibility to ensure we are proactive stewards of the system, and we plan not only for next year, but for the next several decades. We are committed to provide services now and for future generations. While we have been in the planning phases for this upgrade for the past several years, we are now in the most fiscally optimal time to make these investments. By moving forward with this project now and securing today's historically low rates, we will save ratepayers millions of dollars over the life of the project. Following years of planning and with interest rates at historic lows, this is the right project at the right time for our region, even in the difficult times of COVID-19. Slide, please. This project will not only ensure that McCarran's is up to modern standards of operation, it will also put us ahead of the curve by building in future-ready flexibility. By modernizing the treatment process, we will optimize the space and flow, streamline the plant, and reduce the building footprint. This reduced footprint will allow flexibility to expand the treatment capabilities in the future to address challenges. The upgrade will continue our journey towards a smart utility management. The original design of the plant was done with pen and paper. This project will provide a full 3D virtual model, digital records of all assets, and will modernize how we maintain and operate our equipment to ensure the lowest life cycle cost. And I will turn the next slide over to Dave Wagner, our engineering manager.
Thanks, Pat. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Abrams, members of the council. We are currently nearing the selection of a design build firm that will serve as our project partners throughout the project. The design work is ready to begin in early 2021. In the coming 12 months, our desire is to continue to engage stakeholders such as yourselves and our surrounding neighbors to ensure all parties with an interest in the project are up to date on the project plans. Ultimately, we anticipate that the demolition and construction activities will begin in the spring of 2022 and culminate in the years 2025 with the completion of the new facilities. Next slide, please. Thanks, Steve. As you may be aware, pursuing this project has allowed the board to enter into an agreement with the developer to move forward with the improvement of the Zittle Garden property on Rice Street. The board purchased this property in 2014 to ensure room to expand our facilities in the event that need arose. With the reduction in our existing footprint resulting from this project, we will have space available and no longer need the property north of Roselawn. There are economic benefits as well. More than 500,000 labor hours are anticipated as a result of this project, which we brought in throughout this area over a 4 to 5 year duration of the project. This can result in economic boost to the surrounding community. The plant is located adjacent to residential properties, and some residents will experience construction impacts. Plans for mitigating these impacts are an important issue as the project proceeds. But with that, I'll turn it back to Steve.
So in closing, and we'll leave plenty of time for any questions that you might have, the McCarran's Water Treatment Plant Improvement Project was identified as a critical system need in the 2014 Campus Master Plan. The plant is our largest above ground asset and is the only water treatment plant for the entire region. To say that this plant is critical to our public health is an understatement. Aside from the Mississippi River itself, this plant is the backbone of our entire water system. Investing in McCarran's is proactive and responsible and will ensure that our water system can continue to function with changing needs far into the future. This year, as Mayor Abrams was saying earlier tonight, has been extremely challenging. COVID has brought difficulties for us all. At St. Paul Regional Water Services, we have been able to adapt to operating with a skeletal staff to ensure continuity of service without interruption. The economic impact of COVID, however, has lowered interest rates to historic levels. While we have been in the planning phases of this upgrade for several years, we are now in the most fiscally optimal time to invest in our system. By investing in this project using federally backed SRF funding and from the state of Minnesota, we will be securing interest rates probably below 1% that will save our ratepayers millions of dollars over the 20-year life of that project financing. This upgrade to our plant is the right project at the right time. Now is the time to make this investment and ensure we are responsible stewards of our resources and supporting the future generations with safe, reliable drinking water. And with that, we stand here before you and to answer any questions you may have or any other thoughts that you might have on the project.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. As I sit as a water board commissioner, I'm certainly very familiar with this project and the need for the project. And I have to say that it has been very exciting to learn about this. It's a huge investment into our community and the future of our, the whole water system. I always refer to this as the Rice Street water treatment plant. I think most Maplewood residents know it as that instead of McCarran's water treatment plant, but this is the Rice Street plant. Anyway, Mr. Schneider, could you just briefly explain the technology upgrades? I mean, what we're looking at basically is a 100-year-old system. And can you kind of just give us a rough outline of some of the technology changes that we're going to be incorporating in this project?
Mayor Abrams and members of the council, yes. As you had mentioned, this plant was originally built in the 1920s and has been added on to over the years. But for the most part, the treatment technology has remained the same over that lifetime. It works, and it's a very common technology in surface water treatment plants across the country. What we are doing with this project is taking a treatment train or a treatment process that is very footprint intensive and very maintenance intensive, and bringing in 2020 technology to certainly increase the efficiency of chemical usage, increase the efficiency of electrical usage, but also give us the flexibility for additional treatment options. As Patrick mentioned, ozone is something that will be incorporated into this project, and that's a very flexible disinfectant for water. It takes care of a lot of the emerging technology or emerging contaminants that we're finding in surface waters these days. And it allows us to have those tools available to treat the water into the future, and also gives us the flexibility, because of the increased space that we're going to have, to add additional treatment technologies in the future should the need arise. As Dave mentioned, because of our smaller footprint, we are going to be able to work with a developer to develop the garden property up north of Roselawn on Rice Street. That was specifically bought because we ran out of space in this area where our treatment plant is. But that becomes a moot point in the future, and enables us to help the Rice-Larpenteur corridor by putting some very needed some housing in that area with PAC properties. So I'll leave it at that for now, but basically it's just going to give us that flexibility for the future, upgrade the technology to current technology, 2020 technology.
Thank you much. Let's see if there are any questions or comments by the rest of the council. Councilmember Knutson.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. I'm just wondering, during construction, will you continue to treat same levels of water?
Council member and Mayor, yes, that is one of the challenging parts of this project, but it will need to be constructed while our existing treatment process remains in place and remains effective and allows us to treat enough water to serve our customers. It will be, that's why, it's one of the reasons the project is over a 3-year period rather than this could probably be built in 1.5 to 2 years if it was just a open field. But there's a lot of coordination that needs to be done with our existing treatment, and it's one of the main things that we're looking at while we're choosing a design builder to work with.
Thank you.
Councilmember Neblett, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to be clear about something you said about the budget. So we're talking about $165 million. And did I hear you say that this is going to be paid for through the county, the state, and the feds?
No, council member, thank you. The financing that we are getting is going to be utilizing a state-run program that is backed by the Environmental Protection Agency. They're called the Drinking Water SRF program, ultra low interest rate loans. No, this will be paid for by the sale of water and services, like all of our other capital projects that we undertake.
So that, and I just want to be clear for folks listening. So that doesn't mean that we are going to see a separate line item in our water bill in the future where this money is going to be paid back?
Council member and Mayor, it will become part of our overall debt service that we pay with our rates, and it will there will be an incorporation into our general rate base. It's not going to be a separate item. It will be part of our overall debt service.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. This may be a little premature, but if you have a vague idea, you can answer my question, I guess. Just how much demolition overall on the campus is this going to mean?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Nope. I mean, if you have another question, go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
Well, and then during the time that this is going on, how do you intend to engage with and notify the impacted neighbors?
Councilmember Juniman and Mayor, this is one of the, when we asked in our proposals from our design builders about public outreach, there will be regular events to engage in our local neighbors. They, you know, if you can see the picture on the screen right now,
Yes.
the large area right in the middle, that is our filter building. That will stay the same. But that green space, I'll say to the right of that, that is the area where the majority of the construction is going to happen. The two big round clarifiers and the building in between them will become more of an open space because those will no longer be needed. So it will be concentrated to this area. And we know we do have residents that live around this area, and we will be engaging them and letting them know what is going to be happening. There will be construction activity, but we certainly will work with them to try to minimize that disruption and work with our design builder who have done this on tight sites like this in residential areas before, and they've had some great successes in those areas. So it's certainly a consideration when we are choosing our design builder.
Thank you. And then this is kind of an ancillary question, but I know it'll come up, so I'll ask it now. Does this have any impact on the whole Sandy Lake issue?
Councilmember Juniman and Mayor, no, it does not. This is a separate issue with that. That issue.
Thank you. I just know the neighbors will bring it up, so I'd like to know the answer ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith, do you have any questions?
I think most of my questions have been answered. I just say, you know, the comment I always make about the water service is that if people don't really know what's going on at the water service, it means they're probably doing a pretty damn good job. You know, it's great to hear this is happening, but it's, you know, I think you guys do a huge amount for our community that I think goes unrecognized because it just works. You turn on the faucet and it works.
Exactly. And I must say that as a water commissioner, that I have learned so much about water treatment and about how this system works. And I am quite proud of the work and the quality of water that we count on. And I think you're absolutely right. Most people might not even realize that the water treatment facility is in our city because you just simply turn on the tap and the water tastes great and it's always there. What was amazing to me when I joined the Water Commission, I got a tour of the facility, and to see that it's still operating after 100 years, there was an awful lot of foresight that went into that particular facility, and the fact that it has lasted this long, I think it speaks very well to the staff and the way that this has been run as a utility. So I'd like to thank you, Mr. Schneider, Mr. Shea, and Mr. Wagner for coming and presenting to the council. I know that, you know, I'm certainly aware of this project. We've been talking about it. It seems like for quite a long time on the commission, but I wanted our city to kind of get this on the radar, to know that this is going to be coming, and it is a very important infrastructure update for all almost 500,000 people who enjoy water from this facility. So thank you, gentlemen, and we really appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council.
Have a good night. Moving on, we have a resolution for commission reappointment. City Manager Coleman, you're on this one.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. We have a list of commissioners whose terms expire or did expire on September 30th of 2020. The commissioners were asked to fill out an assessment to evaluate their time on the commission and to indicate their interest in either continuing in service or not. In this particular case, we had 3 openings. 2 of them were Brian Finley and Dennis Dupuy from HEDC, the Housing Economic Development Commission. They have both chosen not to continue on with service. They have indicated that they have some busy family demands and jobs that they feel like they should not continue in service. So there'll be a resolution. I think we did one for Brian Finley last meeting. Molly Miller from the Environmental and Natural Resource Commission is indicating desire to serve on the board, to continue serving, and her application is included in the packet. So the action required from the City Council this evening is to approve the attached resolution for commission reappointment for Ms. Miller.
Thank you, City Manager Coleman.
A little closer to the microphone there, having a hard time hearing you on the phone.
Okay, council members, is there a motion?
I move approval of the resolution reappointing Molly Miller to the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission to a term expiring September 30th, 2023.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Smith. The motion to approve the attached resolution for commission reappointment of Molly Miller. Any further discussion? Hearing
Mayor?
none, then let's, council
Mayor?
members? Yes.
Sorry, Councilmember Juniman. I just want to say, if all of our commissioners were as enthusiastic and hardworking as Molly, we would really be moving. She is very dedicated to the environment and our natural resources, and we're very lucky she wants to continue.
Thank you very much for that. There's been a motion and a second. Now let's move to the vote. Councilmember Knudsen?
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett?
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Congratulations, Molly, and we really appreciate your service. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have 4 items tonight. Is there a motion?
I move approval of the consent agenda items G1 through 4.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Smith. Consent agenda items G1 through 4. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then Councilmember Knudsen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett?
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. We have no public hearings tonight. We have no unfinished business. We move on to new business, and we have a conditional use permit and setback variance resolution for Maplewood Toyota vehicle storage. Mr. Thompson, you are the presenter tonight. Are you with us?
Yes, Mayor and Council, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, and can you see my screen?
Not yet. Now we can.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So before you tonight, we do have a development application from Maplewood Toyota for the site of the former Golden's restaurant at Highway 61. The council is aware, Maplewood Toyota has a significant operation, an automobile dealership operation on the west side of Highway 61 over several properties, generally between County Road D and Beam Avenue. The main dealership building is actually located at the southwest corner of Highway 61 and Beam. But over the past couple years, they have been acquiring some additional properties on the west side of 61 to incorporate into some of their dealership operations. So for example, last year they did acquire the former Venberg Tire site at D and 61 for part of their repair and their dealership. The application tonight, as I mentioned, is for the former site of the Golden's restaurant that closed on that site a while back. So Maplewood Toyota is proposing to incorporate that into their operations, as I mentioned, and would really be using the site for the storage of vehicle inventory associated with the dealership. The site improvements themselves are fairly straightforward in that the building that's on that site would be demolished and removed. And then kind of a reconfigured and new parking lot along the east side of the site, as you can see in this map. I think it's important to note that the parking lot footprint, location, and configuration on the west side of the site, which is nearest to residential, would not change under this proposal. So it's the same footprint and configuration as the previous parking lot for the restaurant itself. And so I know there were some notes in the neighborhood, a couple of the neighborhood comments about the trees along the west side of the site. Because there are no changes on the west side, all of the trees on that side of the site would be retained as part of this project. And so just to create some efficiencies for additional parking or inventory storage, new parking lot would be added where the building is today. And then again, just kind of to square off the parking lot along the frontage road to Highway 61 along the east side of the site. The new areas, the new parking lot or expanded footprint of that parking lot would comply with all of the city's setback requirements as well as all of the zoning requirements in this zoning district. There are two requests being made by the applicant for this proposed use. The first is a conditional use permit for this site. Our zoning ordinance states that outdoor storage, regardless of what type of storage that is associated with the business, is a conditional use in the zoning district. And so although they're vehicles and very similar to parking for a commercial use, we do consider them storage of associated with the business, and so therefore does require a conditional use permit. The second request is for a setback variance. So as the council is aware, within our zoning ordinance, all commercial uses in this zoning district must be at least 350 feet from a residential property. What's unique about this site is that the previous commercial operation parking lot is less than 350 feet. It's a little over 70 feet from that west property line. And so they are requesting that variance to maintain that existing condition. So as I mentioned, there would be no changes to that distance or the separation between the residential, and it's really maintaining the what was previously a commercial use for parking for a restaurant is now just transitioning to a commercial use associated with the vehicle dealership. And then the staff report does note some similar conditions and similar requests that the council has approved for other dealerships along the 61 corridor. So the Planning Commission held a public hearing on this at their last meeting, and then they did unanimously recommend approval of this application for the council's consideration. So with that, we've included the resolutions in your packet tonight for your consideration and are recommending approval of those. So with that, Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Council members, are there any questions? Councilmember Knudsen.
I sat in on the Planning Commission, and this project really fits what has been going on. And in fact, with there'll be less traffic and less interplay with the car storage. So I support the project.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Neblett.
No, after Mr. Thompson's explanation, I have no questions. It was very clear and easy to understand. Thank you.
Councilmember Juniman.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. In the narrative from the developer or the owner, under operations, it says site operations will be for automotive vehicle storage, and in parentheses, future service and sales. So does that indicate they would want to possibly build something on this site in the future? Because it says future service and sales. Does anyone know the answer?
Mr. Thompson?
Mayor and council, I don't know. The applicant is online for the specific future plans. What I can tell you is that this conditional use permit is specific to the plans before the council this evening. So were there to be any changes in the future, which are different than what the council is approving, it would either require an amendment to the CUP or compliance with the ordinance under our general commercial zoning standards.
Thank you. I have one more question.
Councilor Juniman.
Thank you. I understand the setback will stay the same, but I do know that there were a couple of neighbor comments now, and there have been neighbor comments in the past about the busyness of this particular business, which is healthy, but may be a little hard to take if you live there. Is there any possibility of, because this one is, if you look at the overlay in front of us, it is actually closer to the other parking lots they have either built or acquired, to the residences, those multiple dwellings. And I'm wondering if there's any chance, I know there are trees there now, but is there any chance for going, if there's going to be further use of this with some kind of berming or something that would decrease the view of multiple car roofs?
Mr. Thompson.
Mayor and council, because it's a parking lot today and we feel it's kind of a continuation of a very similar use, we do not include a condition about additional landscaping, but certainly if the planning commission did not request that as well, but certainly if the council thinks that would be important, it could be included as an additional condition for some additional landscaping on the west side.
The reason I ask is because, yes, it was a parking lot before, but it was rare that it was ever full to the back. This will obviously be full to the back all the time. So that is a little bit of a change. So I just thought possibly we might want to entertain that for the sake of the people who live behind it. And then I have one more question on the environmental part of the report. It says the southwest corner of the site is within the shoreland overlay. Any future alterations in this area of the site will need to meet all shoreline requirements. My question is, are there any issues with that as a result of disturbance by demolition of the building?
Mayor and council, I will confirm this quickly, but I believe that the area where the improvements are proposed are all outside of the shoreline overlay district.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's adhered to. And I would sort of entertain the idea if anybody else thinks that possibly more screening might be appropriate. Just a question.
Good point. Thank you, Councilmember Juniman.
And we miss Golden's, boo-hoo.
I know. We miss Golden.
All business around a long time.
I'll just throw in my 2 cents now, since you raised that about some additional screening. I think that certainly would go a long way in terms of the neighborhood. And I certainly would support that, some additional screening. Mr. Thompson, what might that look like if we wanted to go there?
Mayor, in your resolution included on the last page of the resolution being page 55 of 90 in your packet, I would just recommend an additional condition number 11 that says the applicant submit a landscaping plan which provides additional screening along the west side of the site for staff review and approval.
Vincent, I hope you got that down, because I'm leaning that way myself. Certainly the owner, we are going to give you an opportunity to speak with us, but I wanted to chat with, give Councilmember Smith an opportunity as well.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess the only comment I had was somewhat related to that, but just on point 8 on page 55, ensuring that we have also a good lighting plan there. Mm. I know we've had some issues in the past with dealerships getting a little enthusiastic about their lighting, and I just want to make sure that we're not, fundamentally changing the nature of lighting in that area. It sounds like we're all on the same page here, but I feel like it's important we talk about that for the neighbors. Also, the comment was made here with citizens, and we've heard it before. And I also understand Maplewood Toyota is not the only car dealership around there, but we've had a lot of comments around test driving and people driving through the neighborhoods, either prospective buyers or service folks. So it's probably not, there isn't really a place for it necessarily in this resolution, but I think continuing to work with our dealership partners to make sure that they're being excellent neighbors in those spaces, and that we work with them to lay out, proper routes for test driving, I think would be helpful for the neighbors as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. I'll make a couple of comments and then I'd like to hear from the owners as well. I think the idea of, I really support adding number 11, adding some additional screening. Councilmember Juniman, thank you for that idea. I think that will help form a little bit of a shield there. And I understand that, you know, it is currently a parking lot today and it will be a parking lot, but I think the use will be a little bit different because you're right, Golden's didn't generally pack up in the back. I also want to concur with what Councilmember Smith said about being a good neighbor. I see that one of our residents made that comment concerning test drives. And just for the record, I live in that neighborhood, and I will tell you that there were test drives in my neighborhood today. And it's pretty obvious when they come from Maplewood Toyota because they have the license plate. And I will also say that within the last week, when the weather was so gorgeous last week, I was out walking in the neighborhood and I wound up picking up some of the paper liners that they put on the floors for test drives. And I wound up picking some up in my neighborhood and I recycled them because they're paper. But I think that, you know, I certainly want to go on record asking the owner. I think that idea of having appropriate test drive routes would go a long way. And I know that I've lived there for quite a while. And I do know that sometimes it gets really bad, and Maplewood in the past Maplewood Toyota has been very receptive and has made some changes, and then things slip, and now things are slipping so that I'm actually picking up paper from Maplewood Toyota from the floor protectors and putting them in recycling. And I think that we can expect a little bit better than that. So can we hear from the owners, please? Mr. Thompson, do you want to introduce them?
Yes, Mayor, apologies. Yes, let me just grab.
This is Steve McDaniels. Am I on the phone?
Hi, Mr. McDaniels. Welcome to our city council meeting.
Oh, thank you very much. I listened to that and I am more than happy to talk about any of those items. I tried to jot down where the discussion went. I don't have, you know, I've been in the city for a long time, 38 years. We try really, really hard to be good neighbors. And I feel badly that, you know, there was some paper back there from test drives. I really can't answer the question except that road, and we've gone through this for about 25 years, and from previous mayors, we do try to direct people out to the right. And especially now with COVID for the last 6 months, we don't ride with them. So, you know, it's really hard to dictate to somebody exactly where to drive. So if they go to the right, they're going to go where they want and they're going to end up on some public road somewhere and come back. A lot of them, the cars are from Maplewood, but we're pretty good about directing them to the right. You know, encouraging them to go to the right. They could go then up and then come through the neighborhood the other way as well. And there's a lot that I can't remember what one of your former city managers called that, but you know, when they built that road, when they improved it, he called it a major collector road, and that was supposed to take cars, you know, from 61 through there. And we're trying desperately to not have any aggravation to the neighbors to the best we can.
I think what you're talking about is County Road D, but I think what I'm talking about is the cars are coming right from Maplewood Toyota on B, and then going to the neighborhood from there.
Yeah, I understand that. So my point is, so when we ask them to, you know, we suggest them to go to the right and go to the stoplight. So when I say to the right, that's out of our facility just south of B. So they go out and they go to the right, and then they're going to get back. And a lot of times they go up North 61 and they'll come around that way, or they'll go in another part of Maplewood. I mean, they're going to end up, unfortunately, they just don't want to go on the highway. So they're going to end up somewhere. We don't have that many, but I will re-energize my staff, certainly tomorrow, to encourage them, to go out towards 61. We really can't control where they go from there on a test drive. I mean, I just don't
Certainly,
know
I
how to do
appreciate
that.
that. And I certainly want
Yep.
to say too that Maplewood Toyota has been a great neighbor in most respects. I know a lot of my neighbors buy cars and lease cars from you. And you have a great service department. So certainly, we're just making some suggestions on what we think could be better, because obviously this proposal is going to expand your business. And we just want to make sure that you are a good neighbor and continue to be a good neighbor. So
And thank you for that. We will continue to try to be. This is where we've lived for 38 years. As the expansion did help. So to the north of Maplewood, we did, I don't know, this was about 6 or 7 years ago, the Lemettry's body shop that we bought and traded the land just to the north where Lemettry's is now. We moved our line technicians to that building. So that should have eliminated probably, and we were happy about that, for the neighborhood, 75% of any test drives, because they're quite a ways north on 61 and they don't go down those streets when they test drive a car after they repair it. So we don't do any repairs now in the main building that's right on Beam. And that's where most of that pressure was coming from. And I will say for these 4 or 5 years, once in a while we hear this, but we monitor it pretty carefully. And if somebody calls, we'll respond the best we can. And we think we cut it way down, and we'll re-encourage the people to go towards 61. That I can tell you. I have no problem doing that. We want to be great neighbors to all the people back there. So
thank you. And what do you think about Councilmember Juniman's proposal about additional screening?
Yeah, I will say I don't have any problem ever with that for like nature's trees or anything. But if you do go back there, that ground on Galdens, and just to give you a little bit of perspective on why we bought that, we really Brenda, the owner of Galdens, and Mike before he passed away, they continually talked to me about at some point in time, and Mike did that might be a good thing to have. Well, in March, really on St. Patrick's Day, Brenda decorated the restaurant for her last St. Patrick's Day thing, and the governor had to close the restaurants. And then we had a verbal agreement for me to just buy it. I really didn't have any specific use, so except parking, and I figured that would be something that the city would encourage, because I just wanted to comment that if we take the building down, which at the time I didn't know that I would or wouldn't, but it's an old building and we determined that we need to, that will really help those residents to the west. And because there is no Saturday night late traffic, there's no Sunday traffic, there's no Friday night bar traffic. So it really will cut that down. And I will say that there hasn't been a complaint from that group of neighbors on the screening. And there hasn't been any. We're trying really hard on that. And we haven't really used the property yet, so it's been empty. But it will be much lower traffic for that whole group, and especially the late night traffic. And I'm not sure, one of the council members mentioned that it wasn't full back there. I think if you called Brenda or Mike on Friday, Saturday night, it was jammed, and they even needed to use the part of Enberg's lot on those nights. So I really think they'll experience a very positive way. If there's quite a few big trees back there, and they're pines, I am more than happy to work with the city and say, where do they want me to plant a few trees, or whatever it takes back there. There's really not a lot of space to do it where anybody would be able to be screened. But we've never been opposed to that, and that's just fine. As long as we can just work with the city and move forward with what you recommend, we can go up there and take a look and see how it would work. But it's sloped, so the grade goes towards the west, so it's really going to be hard. And there's some high homes or condominiums, whatever those are called, that, you know, you just can't screen it. And they might not even want it. I mean, they might want to be able to see out further. So this isn't a repair parking lot. So that's going to be difficult, but we're happy to work with the city on it.
Thank you for that, Mr. McDaniel.
Yeah.
Councilmember Smith, did you have something else you wanted to add?
I was just going to say that, you know, I think it's fair for us to also communicate back with the residents to say, hey, you know, they're not riding with those folks. They can't control everything that happens. You know, that's part of this neighborly process, is for us to also stick up for the dealerships and make sure that's clear. So that's a really good point.
That's a
I
good
didn't
point.
really think through either of the kind of impact of the pandemic on something like that. So it's, I think that's really fair. And I think, you know, as long as you guys are doing what you can do, that's great. So I appreciate your willingness to partner with us on that, but you know, I don't think any of us expect perfection. And
yeah, and I appreciate that. And just like anybody, you know, our guests had come in to buy a car, you know, it's really hard to, even if you're sitting with them, even after this is all over, you know, this is new cars, and sometimes they're nervous and they want to go where they want to go and where they feel comfortable going. And it's just really a hard thing to dictate. And the other dealerships, you know, aren't going to dictate to not go down B when they go north on 61. So it's a challenge, but we are working with it, and we will. I have no problem doing that. We have a great guest base there, and we've been there a long time. So
yes,
I don't have any problem with that. There was a couple other things I wanted to address. Oh, the lighting. All we would do, all we plan to do is change them to more efficient lighting heads, the poles that are on there. And we might put a couple of the LED flat down lights where the building is. So this is just going to be inventory parking. It's not going to be customer facing or anything like that. So we're not going to be, I chuckled at, I'm not sure who made it because we're on this online search. Somebody said we would get aggressive with lighting. So, you know, I think that's a fair comment in a lot of cases. All we want to do is have security lighting and lighting where our team members can feel safe if they have to go up and get a car from there. So our lights will go straight down. We did upgrade Venberg when we bought that, and we upgraded those lights. And we did have one person from behind there call us, and our lighting contractor did put one that was kind of tilted up, and we fixed it the next day. And he said, thank you. I've been staring at that light for a long time, and that's the only time we've had anybody contact us about the lights. But we're very conscious of that, and we'll just put some LED lights in there. And again, that neighborhood will love it because, you know, we're not open till 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday night. So I think they already do really like that change. Everybody, they do not like that Golden's is gone, and neither do we. We use them all the time for lunches and dinners because they like to walk down there and have a drink and walk home. But they were just not able to keep that going with these issues that we've all dealt with. So let me think.
Thank you very much for that. I think that addresses all of the issues.
Okay, I'm not sure.
We're concerned.
Okay, well, thank you. If there's anything else, I'm here to answer any questions that I may. And to the one question that somebody did mention about the building, we don't have any plans, but we don't want to be restricted from not coming back to you if we do come up with something that we might develop. We understand we have to come back, and
sure,
if we wanted to put in structure on that property.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
Council members, then, I believe we've gone through at least one round of questions. Is there a motion concerning the resolution for the conditional use permit and setback variance?
I move to approve a resolution for a conditional use permit and setback variance at 2999 Highway 61.
Second.
Motion by Neblett, seconded by Smith. The motion to approve a resolution for a conditional use permit and setback variance. Council members, I think we haven't addressed adding number 11.
Right.
Which, Councilmember Neblett, would you entertain a friendly amendment to add number 11
Sure.
as concerning the additional screening that has been suggested by Councilmember Juniman, and Mr. Daniels didn't object to it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you with that then. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Then let's move to a vote. Councilmember Knutson?
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett?
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much, Mr. McDaniels. We appreciate having your business in our city.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Okay, moving on to our next agenda item. It's the 2021 residential trash and waste rates. Mr. Thompson, this is yours, I believe. Yes, it is.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Can you see my screen again?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, Council. So as the Council is aware, at the end of last year, end of 2019, the Council entered into a new 5.5-year contract with Republic Services for residential trash and yard waste throughout Maplewood. That contract was the result of a lengthy and competitive request for proposals process that the city went through for all of our residential solid waste services in the community. And as I mentioned, it took several months and had a detailed review of the proposals. Ultimately, when the council adopted the contract, reviewed those proposals for best service, competitive pricing, but also consistent with the city's environmental and sustainability policies, objectives, and the goals that we have. So 2020 was the first year that Republic and the city, Republic provided residential trash services in Maplewood under the terms of the new contract. Within the contract, it actually does outline the trash rates over the full term of the contract. So the annual adjustments to the fees that I'll walk through are actually all outlined in the contract. But this evening we want to come to the council for two things. One, just to update you on what the trash rates would be under the terms of the contract, and then also request council approval of some modifications of those trash rates based on implementing the pay-as-you-throw program that has been kind of part of the contract since the beginning. So just to give you a very high-level overview of the trash rates, the rates consist of three different costs, or three different fees that are included in that. The first is the collection cost, and this is actually a flat fee that is the same for every household, regardless of the service that they have, and the service being the size of the trash container that they have. So that's a flat fee for, again, it's the same for every household. The cost that actually varies based on cart size is the disposal cost. So that's the bigger the cart, therefore the more the waste, the higher the disposal cost will be for those services. And the last component that comprise the trash rates are the taxes and fees. So the Minnesota and Ramsey County fees, as well as the city's cart fees for our ownership of those carts. So in blue on the slide just notes what the contract terms are. So under the
I hate to interrupt, I apologize, but it's still on the title slide.
Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Folds.
Is it corrected now?
No.
You might be showing the wrong screen.
Let me exit out here and.
Because we're seeing the editor, we're not seeing the slideshow. If you go in the slideshow in presenter view and swap screens, that should help.
Now, do you see the trash rate slide?
No?
Mm-mm.
Give me one moment here. Let's try this fee. Do you now see the
There we
trash
go.
rate slide? Okay, we'll just.
We see that now.
Great. So yeah, these are the three fees that I was referencing that comprise the total trash rates: the collection costs, the disposal costs, and the taxes and fees. So highlighted in blue on this slide is are the increases associated with the specific terms in the contract. So the collection fee is defined and has a 4% increase in 2021. And then the disposal cost is based on what Ramsey County is charging, or what the Resource and Energy Center is charging for the tipping fee. And so they've released the 2021 fee. It's a 2% increase for 2021. And then the taxes and fees would be based on both the collection and disposal costs. So if we were to implement the direct terms of the contract, this chart and sorry, we're I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, but it's a lot of numbers. But in the first three columns here are what we call the 2021 contract rates. So this is with that 4% increase on the collection fee. You can see the $7.70 in the second column for all trash cart sizes, and the disposal fee with that flat 2.4% increase across all of those gets you that total fee from $12.87 for the 20-gallon every other week up to $23.45 for the 95-gallon. As I mentioned, what has always been included in the contract is to implement a pay-as-you-throw structure to our fees, which starts to create more daylight or some differentiation in pricing amongst these options to meet some of the goals around trash reduction, but more specifically for increase of recycling in the community. What I've done in this chart is.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Judith.
Thank you. Let's point out that these are monthly rates, but you pay once every 2 months. This gets confusing for people. If they see these numbers and it doesn't agree with their bill, they're going to have a stroke. So these are monthly rates, but your bill is for 2 months.
Thank you for that point of clarification.
Thank you.
Yeah. So on the right-hand side of this table are then what staff is proposing and has proposed to Republic Services and agreed upon of the first kind of step in implementing pay-as-you-throw. And so again, it's just creating greater differentiation between these different structures to achieve those goals and objectives that we had outlined in the pay-as-you-throw model. And then the far right-hand column just shows what the difference is. So under just the flat percentage increase across the board for all services versus the revised pay-as-you-throw structure, you can see the differentiation on those amounts. And I apologize, the 57 cents, the far right column, the 35 gallons, that should actually be a negative 57 cents. I dropped the minus sign. So you can see that all of the trash cart options actually decrease over the flat percentage increase. And then there's a slight increase in that 95 gallon to implement the pay-as-you-throw structure. And then this chart we did just want to outline, this was included in your packet, outlines what the rate increases the residents will see on their bill. And as Councilmember Juniman noted, this is the monthly fee, so it'd be twice this amount on a bi-monthly basis. So under the 2020 column, that is the current rate. So what all of our residents have been paying for trash services in 2020 based on those different trash cart sizes in that kind of orange pink column. And then the 2021 in the green column shows the total fees, again, under implementing the pay-as-you-throw changes that are recommended by staff. And then the last column here just shows those percentage increases. So they vary as we try to create that structure. But how we came to these numbers was if you is maintaining the same total disposal cost to Republic Services under the flat percentage increase as the pay-as-you-throw. So Republic Services is not receiving any additional revenue on the disposal fee by implementing this structure based on the current number of carts throughout the city. So it's fairly confusing, but if there are questions, I can certainly answer those on either of these tables. We just wanted to do it two ways: what the pay-as-you-throw structure is, and then what the residents will see for increases in the 2021 rates.
Thank you for that, Mr. Thompson. One thing too that has not been mentioned, if people are interested in reducing their costs further, they can move to a smaller size cart and they can start composting, because composting is free and it is pretty convenient. I know a lot of my neighbors and myself, we're all composting, and it really does help. And composting, like I said, it's free. So thank you, Mr. Thompson. Do you want to move on, please?
Yeah, agreed. And to note on that, we do, under the contract, we do allow one change in garbage trash container size per year for no charge. And then lastly, just wanted to note these, again, we're not changing these under the terms of the contract, but just noting the increases in 2021 for extra trash, yard waste, the new fees for 2021, as well as bulky items. Continuing the $10 to $35 for bulky items throughout the year, with the entire month of October having a reduced amount for bulky items for the fall cleanup campaign. Again, these were not proposing changes under what was in the contract. We just want to highlight what these changes are for 2021. So with that, Mayor, we've included a resolution in your packet, and it would adopt the pay-as-you-throw trash rate structure for 2021 with the changes I've noted in this presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Knutson, Councilmember Knutson, do you have any questions?
No, thank you, Mayor. I was on the trash and recycling committee, and we had planned for this, and looks like the encouragement in the pricing is to use a smaller cart. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Councilmember Neblett.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the reminder about going to a smaller cart, and for Councilmember Juniman for clarifying the cost that it wasn't. Because at first when Mr. Thompson was talking, I thought, is that a weekly charge? And then you clarified that for us. Thank you very much. And the last thing that I will say is, yes, there's slight increase this year, but compared to our neighbors, we're still a lot lower. So I am grateful for that. And thanks for the hard work and putting all these numbers together too, Mr. Thompson. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Juniman.
No questions, thank you. Well,
Councilmember
you've been the
Smith.
trash lady forever, you know, questions go away.
Councilmember Smith.
I have no further questions. I think it's great.
Okay. And I have no questions either. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the attached resolution approving the 2021 residential trash and yard waste rates.
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Neblett. The motion to approve the attached resolution approving 2021 residential trash.
Actually, it was seconded by Juniman, but I'll let it pass.
I think it was Councilmember Neblett that said it first.
Yes.
I think we record.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Third.
Okay, voting. Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The motion passes. We have one last agenda item tonight. This is the North Fire Station Construction Project update and budget discussion. Chief Mondor, this is yours.
Because he doesn't want a new fire station.
Thank you, Mayor Abrams and council. Can you hear me and can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yeah.
to both questions.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, it took a second to get that switched over. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us tonight. We've recently completed the first phase or 30% completion of architectural design for the North Fire Station project. And we plan to provide regular updates to the council throughout this project. This milestone, the completion of schematic design, presents an opportunity for us to provide a project update and gather feedback as we enter the next phase of architectural design. On the call with me tonight are Brian Bergstrom from our architectural team. He's the project manager from Short Elliott Hendrickson, and Jason Rentmeester, who represents our construction manager, Kraus Anderson, and he's the senior project manager from Kraus Anderson. I will be providing a bulk of the presentation, but Brian and Jason are also available if there are any specific questions that we need to direct to them. I wanted to begin tonight by providing a brief project timeline overview. In February, the department completed a facility needs assessment after we had contracted with an architectural and engineering firm in Q4 of 2019. Those results were presented to council on February 10th. Following that space needs assessment, staff distributed a request for proposals for architectural and engineering services. The results of the RFP process were presented to City Council on April 27th, and staff began working with Short Elliott Hendrickson, or SEH, following that process. The first phases of architectural design commenced in May, and we continued to work throughout the summer until, and we held an RFP process starting in June, where we had another request for proposals for construction manager services. The results of that were presented to City Council on September 14th, and Kraus Anderson was added to the project team after the results of the RFP. Staff believe, and the project team believe, it is important that we have our architectural and engineering firm on board early in the process to ensure that multiple vantage points are applied throughout the design process. Last week on November 2nd, the architectural design, as I stated, reached the 1/3 completion, allowing us to provide you with a project update. Throughout this project, we've had several guiding principles, and I wanted to review those with you here tonight. We wanted to focus on function or operations, so we've applied analysis of current operations and strategic goals. This station will be the department's headquarters and accommodate all administrative functions, training, meeting space, and other support functions. We've considered travel times within the station to the apparatus bay, ensured we have adequate apparatus bay space, and have gathered feedback from staff via the utilization of a fire station focus group, which every shift and each layer of the organization has an opportunity to provide feedback to ensure that we're meeting all of our needs. Our goal with that focus is to build a station that meets our needs today and reasonably into the future. Safety and sustainability. Throughout the station, you'll see an emphasis placed on safety and risk reduction. Some of the highlights include drive-through apparatus bays to reduce backing incidents, red, yellow, and green zones that represent cancer mitigation efforts, and dedicated gear storage for clean gear storage that will not be exposed to diesel exhaust and other contaminants. Dedicated gear washing area, and one of the bigger changes is a dedicated decontamination area that allows employees to remove and bag contaminated clothing before proceeding to other parts of the station. And wellness, we've also focused on identifying appropriate space for physical fitness to address some of the leading causes in firefighter death. Both cancer and cardiac arrest are major factors each year as we look at firefighter death statistics. And then sustainability, we've focused on utilizing construction materials that will last 40 to 50 years and have planned areas to meet our existing staffing model and built in the ability to expand via multi-purpose rooms. We also want the place to be welcoming, this fire station to be welcoming to the community. The design accounts for community space, training room, and an EOC that is a multi-purpose area that allows for community events while also allowing for separation between public and operational spaces within the station. The station will also highlight and reflect the rich history of the Maplewood Fire Department in the community while focusing on being a good neighbor. Wanted to briefly walk you through the station. On the screen now is the proposed design for the first floor. For orientation purposes, County Road C is to the north or the top of the screen, and Hazelwood is to the west or the left of the page. So moving west to east, we consider this the work area of the station, comprised of tool and equipment, gear wash, and self-contained breathing apparatus areas, and the aforementioned enclosed turnout area. The apparatus bay accounts for 7 drive-through bays that will accommodate consolidating the 2 fire stations apparatus into one and also accommodate for some future growth. We've also accommodated for the appropriate depth in the event that we need to stack smaller vehicles well into the future, such as ambulance and support vehicles. In the main body of the station, we have towards the north, at the top of the page, we have the watch office, and then if you go directly down, firefighter decon and shower areas and EMS storage. And then in the northeast, we have the lobby welcoming area, a training room, community, and EOC, which is combined into that northeast corner, and 2 breakout rooms. This area was designed to be self-sufficient so that events could occur in the station without impacting daily operations. We host several events and recently hosted voting here, and we do not have any separation in our stations to allow for staff to continue the day-to-day work that they do when community occupies the station. And given current COVID challenges, this is something else that we've focused on to help try to separate some of those functions. The south portion of the main station represents an open office area for staff to complete projects, and it has administrative offices, conference, and support staff. And then we have a command parking garage proposed that would also limit the amount of stacking of apparatus that we currently experience. And I discussed the importance of cancer mitigation earlier, and I'm just going to quickly review what that separation looks like in a red, yellow, and green zone. So the red areas represent higher risk for contamination. And then when firefighters return from fires or incidents, they have an opportunity to decontaminate themselves as needed and dictated by department policy and procedure, which will then limit the amount of exposure and contaminants that are transmitted to the rest of the station. On the second floor, moving west to east, we've accounted for a mezzanine and storage area. We've regularly outgrow our storage needs and have demonstrated that in our current facility layout. We have bunk rooms, toilets, showers, and study areas to account for future staff growth, and then a kitchen, day room, and fitness area. And here's how those red and green areas represent on the second story. When we spoke in February, the space needs assessment had estimated a $10.7 million budget estimate. After getting the architect, SEH and Kraus Anderson on board, the current project estimate is $13.1 million. And so with that increased estimate, we wanted to cover some of the challenges that we've experienced. As we've gotten deeper into the design, we've identified a series of challenges. We found that the cost estimates and the needs assessment were fairly low based on current projections. We found that some additional scope is required to meet our needs today, and if we're going to plan adequately into the future, such as square footage needs, garage bay space, etc. There were some other projections with spacing and grossing factor that impacted the budget as well. And we now have, as I had mentioned, a construction manager on board who knows the industry and has updated real-time information and worked with our current architect to provide more refined information. Additionally, some challenges, there are additional code requirements that weren't originally addressed, such as a nursing mother's room and emergency storm shelter that we're working through with the project team, combined with some potential costs for hazmat abatement of the existing station and demolition, soil corrections, and tree removal and replacement. Based on those challenges, the project team, we challenged each other to identify how we can highlight efficiencies and still build the station we need. So we took an approach utilizing value engineering, evaluation of alternative funding, cost savings, and looking at the project timeline. In the value engineering exercise, we looked at transitioning from concrete masonry or block to precast panels, eliminated overhead doors in lieu of bifold doors that we have in our other newest station, and reworked the original footprint to ensure efficiencies were realized with the transition to precast, and also reduce some of the apparatus base space. We evaluated alternative funding such as reduction in permit and building plan review fees internally, and have discussed utilizing a combination of the IT and EMS funds to cover some of the increased technology costs, specifically the cost to run fiber to the site, which is an estimated $150,000. Last year, during the legislative session, we attempted to get a sales tax exemption for the project, and unfortunately that stalled in legislature amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. And we've also spoke with architectural and the construction manager to consider separating some of the bids as appropriate for materials on the project. We've also discussed utilizing public works to help with some of the demolition costs. And outside of this, we've also worked with Kraus Anderson to amend the project timeline to account for some of the winter conditions that would have experienced with the previous project timeline. Following these exercises, the project team established a good, better, best, and on budget analysis. Best case scenario would represent no budget restrictions, and as I mentioned, a $2.4 million increase or projected $13 million project total. Better represents the discussed value engineering, alternative funding, cost savings, and project timeline amendment. Good would reduce the station's ability to be designed with the guiding principles in mind, and reduce our ability to plan for the future, and would include eliminating one apparatus base space, reducing additional apparatus base space, reducing furniture, technology and security allowance, and some contingencies, and a total of 4,700 square foot reduction. It would still keep the project, require another $1.2 million. On budget would require an additional 4,800 square foot reduction, and approximately 10,000 square foot total, and would involve removing the kitchenette from the community space, removing watch office, support command vehicle bays, showers, studies, the training EOC room, and would all drastically change the functionality of the station as a whole. Based on that good, better, best analysis, we need some direction from City Council. We believe that the better option builds the station that we need today and reasonably accounts for future growth, and would recommend that we do not adopt the good or on budget scenarios, as they represent cuts that would dramatically impact operations today and into the future. Regardless of the direction chosen, we'll continue to work to identify alternative funding and cost savings opportunities. And with that, we would open this up for any questions and discussion.
Thank you, Chief Mondor. A very comprehensive presentation. And, I'll just start off by saying that from my perspective, we're looking at building a fire station that we are going to have for the next 30 to 40 years. And I really appreciate, looking at being presented with these kinds of options. But I think from my perspective, I would rather us be more visionary and recognize that this is going to be here for a very long time. We want efficiencies. We want to make sure that we are planning ahead. I think looking at the differences, my inclination, and I know you're just looking for a recommendation, and next time we'll be looking more at budgeting for it. How do we actually pay for it? But my inclination is I'm most interested in the best and the better options and figuring out how it is that we are going to pay for that. Considering that, the estimates are so much greater than what we had originally believed they would be. So those are my thoughts about it, but I want to hear from the rest of the council as well. Councilmember Knudsen.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse my voice. I'll do the best I can here. Chief Mondor, the mayor said 30 years and you said 50. You think this project lifetime is 50? I kind of think it is.
Councilmember Knudsen, I think the construction materials are 40 to 50 year construction materials if we take care of them appropriately, which we will. We've planned for growth in that 30 to 40 year range, and we do that based on projections and call volumes and unit hour utilization and where our staff are going. And so that's the part that's harder to predict. We have a stabilized staffing model with the adoption of a full-time staffing model, and we're trying to plan for that 30 to 50 years. But if we outrun the staffing projections at that 30-year point, we also have capability to add on. It really comes down to sleeping quarters that we have accounted for in the plan, which pushes the overall projection into closer to that 40 or 50.
Next question, is this at all different or substantially different than what you presented originally months ago?
Not substantially different. There is some increased square footage based on some of the scope that was identified, having the new architect and construction manager. We're talking about growing into the future apparatus-based space, we have a 7th bay to account for that growth. And then we added a little bit of square footage in the overall main body of the station with that similar principle in mind.
But strategically, it's very similar to what we had in mind, as I recall. Let me ask a question. Has the design review board looked at CMU versus the stand-ups? They're looking, and the plan looks like it was originally for concrete block, which I'm sure has some kind of surface. But these tip-up panels are very different. Is that going back through design review?
We haven't reached that point in the project, Councilmember Knudsen. There's certainly some advantages to the concrete block as we talk about flexibility into the future, some of the weather resistance and R value, et cetera. But to your point, we have not gotten to the point where this has been brought to the design board.
Just for other council members, I can assure you, as I sit on the design review board, that they're going to fight hard for the concrete block that was originally in the design. During your process, have you looked at add alternatives as a strategy with Kraus Anderson? Are there things that you could set aside, and when budget allows, you could go ahead and pull the trigger, so to speak?
Yes, that's been a big part of our conversation. Is where can we identify those bid alternates? Some of those things like bifold doors or the 7th apparatus bay become kind of low hanging fruit as it relates to bid alternates. And we've worked through several of those options and continue to rely on Kraus Anderson and SEH to identify those as we get further along in the budgeting process.
And just to remind everybody, some of those things that you delay cost a lot more in the future. I mean, one of the things I was talking about today is that, a few months ago, I bought plywood for my project. It was $17 a sheet. Now it's 27. You can't find treated wood. So I'm thinking that we really need to get this thing going. So I don't recommend any project delays. I think this project is very well done and well planned. I think these people that are doing special duty right now deserve an environment that is supportive to their education and training and to their safety and comfort. I know during the task force, a couple members spent quite a bit of time on a daily basis with the fire department and the paramedics. And the amount of work they do in a 24-hour period is absolutely amazing. My recommendation is to go with the best option. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Neblett.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Mondor, you talked about Public Works possibly helping with some of the demolition. Is that just an idea, or is that
Yeah, so I mean,
Yes.
we need to have the vision so we're not replacing a station in 20 years.
Right.
You know,
Good point.
that's not acceptable to me. And this has to be investment we make over time, because that's a perfectly fine building. It just doesn't serve our needs anymore. So that's where I'm at. Let's bite the bullet, make the investment, and make the best station we can.
Thank you, council members, for your insight and your wisdom. I must say that the discussion about the bifold doors, I recall now the McKnight station and why those doors were installed. And yeah, I'm leaning as well towards the best, but I also want to see, I always like the idea of comparison so that we can take a look at what are those options. And I would be inclined not to reduce bifold doors. But I think that each one of those changes between best and better, we need to know more about those. What are, you know, if we're looking at scrimping now, but in the long term, there's going to be more cost, more likelihood for accidents. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to make that kind of an investment. We want to do it right. And certainly this is an investment for our community. It's also an investment for our staff. And I went on record as saying our oldest fire station is an embarrassment. And so one of the things that I'd like to take a look at too, I mean, we heard earlier from St. Paul Regional Water that money is cheap right now. And so I really want us to look at some options on how we can make this work. And I would suggest, let's look at the best and let's look at better, but let's also understand in depth what's the difference and what are the trade-offs. Because if there are trade-offs in, you know, we're not going to be as efficient and more likelihood of accidents, that type of thing, then that really is not a good trade-off in my mind. But I think, Mr. Mondor or Chief Mondor, that that should give you, I know we've got a motion before us, and I would like to make that motion that the direction, the scenario that the council would prefer would be the best, and also consider the better option, but we have to have rationale as to what the difference is and what we would be foregoing if we went with something less than the best. So I will make that option.
Mayor, may I make a friendly?
Just 1 second. Second, there's been a motion and a second. And further discussion. Wait 1 second. Councilmember Smith has a comment.
I'm wondering if I could make a friendly amendment or just even a suggestion that when it comes to the aesthetic parts of this, if it's not terribly expensive, if we could see renderings of the different options to be able to
on your screen.
Understand those differences, that would be helpful.
I think that would make some sense too, if there isn't a big cost to that we could actually see a rendering or some type of diagram or pictures of what it looks like. So yes, I think that would be great. And I would accept that friendly amendment. So there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, how do you vote? Councilmember Knutson?
Aye.
Councilmember Neblett?
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. It's a challenging time, but it's also a very exciting time. And council members, we now come to the end of our agenda, and I'm going to do the round robin one more time. I will just simply add at the end here, this is Veterans Week, or Veterans Day is on Wednesday. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we aren't going to have the type of celebrations that people normally have for Veterans Day. So please, you know, thank a veteran for their service to our country. I know my son and daughter-in-law are both now veterans, and I thank them for their service. So please thank a veteran this week. Councilmember Knutson, any closing comments?
I like the veterans. My dad was in combat for almost 4 years in World War II. And I recall his stories, and there's terrifying stories of combat. And I was in the Marines for 6 years, but did not have to go to Vietnam. But I feel for everybody. It's very important to respect our military and our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Neblett.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, it must have been on everybody's mind because I too wanted to acknowledge that Veterans Day is this week. My father served for 30 years in the United States Army. My sister served for 6 years in the United States Army. And it's just such a reminder. I keep thinking about, whenever I think about veterans, I think about the statement that freedom isn't free. And I am fortunate that my father did go to Vietnam and he came home. But there were 60,000 lives lost in Vietnam. And I can remember it very, very well. And what a sad time that was for our country. But it's also an exciting time for our country now. Now that we've made it through the election and it's on to the next phase. And I'm happy about that. And I am thrilled to be able to put out my flag on Veterans Day and salute all the veterans and really say thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Neblett. Councilmember Juniman.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I guess it is on everybody's minds. My father was a World War II vet. He spent over 3 years in the South Pacific. My husband was in Vietnam for a year. My very best friend was in the Air Force in Southeast Asia for 5 years. I think it's easy to forget in between. And while that might seem normal, because lives are busy, certainly when you have a day that calls your attention to it, we should be reminded of what that means and what these people did for us. And for everything that we have in this country, we wouldn't have the life we have without people willing to serve. So we do need to call that to mind. And I also think that we need to be aware at this time that the pandemic looks pretty grim for the next 2 to 3 months. And we need to be aware of what we can do by way of service, meaning doing what we're asked. Too many people have died. Too many people are, again, threatened. We talked today about our hospitals possibly being overwhelmed. We need to pull together and do what we're asked. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Juniman. Councilmember Smith, you want to close us out?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Veterans Day has also been on my mind. My dad was a World War II vet, but I was actually hoping to highlight a different set of heroes, which were all the people in Maplewood and across this country who made our election happen. We are no stranger to complicated elections here in Maplewood. And this time around, luckily, it was less complicated. But you know, elections don't happen by themselves. And City Clerk Sint and her team, the Public Works team, who helped to deliver supplies to polling places, and a number of staff who've acted as greeters and line control and working through ballot returns and helping voters figure out where to go. It takes a team of these heroes to make this happen. And last but not least, the 130 election judges who come out to work that time. It's an incredible gift that they give our democracy. And we can see across the country how difficult it can be. And so, you know, I think no matter what our political affiliations are, I think we can all agree that we want people's votes to count. And, you know, we're going through that process in some states still. But, you know, here in Minnesota, I felt really great about our process. And here in Maplewood, I felt ecstatic about our process. And I'm just so grateful to those that make it happen, because without that, we wouldn't be able to enjoy the freedom and the opportunity our system of government gives us. So thank you.
Very
Here,
good point.
here.
Thank
Well
you for that.
said.
You're here.
Thank
And with that, council members, we are adjourned.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Right.